peppers from now on. I am not a cat.
Yeah, what? Oh, hi everybody. We're here. Someone beat me here and liked the empty stream. Whew, thank you. At the same time, way to make me feel apprehensive liking it before you even know if you are gonna like it like that. But that's okay. I want to say hi to wife who got behind on dishes and things, so she'll be working behind us this whole time, mocking us. I'm extremely tired today since everyone and their cousin decided that they wanted to go to a fish restaurant before their Thanksgiving festivities later on in the week. Oh my God, no, the gain. Stop. No, I'm too bright. Stop it. Yeah. Ooh, come on. I'm just gonna ignore that. Okay.
Super white meal. You need the Mongol, the Mongol's touch.
Just a super Mongol's touch.
Mongol side.
Yes, I joke because she's Slavic and she has slightly Asian eyes. If you look close enough, that some Mongol raped some of her ancestors in the past. So we're gonna have
I'm way too happy for that.
Good lesson this stream for sure. It's about the crumbling monarchy. So the monarchy of Israel falls apart quite quickly after the stability that David and Solomon bring. Right? Solomon screws up quite bad, and depending on how cultic you take your sources, some will, it ranges from he just worshiped pagan gods to others saying that he went full witchcraft mode and all this other stuff and blah, blah, blah. Basically, he sinned enough that he lost the monarchy and God split it in the next generation. And from there, you have a whole series of kings going through a very similar... Why is it doing that? Very similar cycles that the judges went through. Only they'll be longer. Because dynasties and kings. It's funny. When you add dynasties into the equation, the cycles are longer because the sons tend to take after their fathers. So if the father of the king was a bad guy worshiping lots of Baal and archery stuff, the son was off doing that. And the other way around worked true for a while there too, until something happens that breaks the cycle. And then pendulum switching back and forth till finally God says, all right, I'm done with this shit, and sends them all to Babylon. But we'll get into this. I assume you guys are still here. Thanks for the like. We're going to get started. I need to be fancy and look up some professional YouTuber person's analytical studies for how long you should do intros, but we're just do 3 minutes this time. I know you're supposed to hang out and give people time to filter in and all that, but you know what? I was already late, so we're gonna get started. That's what I say. Oh wait, before we fully get started, I need to share links, I guess. Yeah, we'll share a quick link.
I got Discord.
You got the Discord. Wife's handling her womanly duties. You want your step around them womanly duties, wife. If I may use a lame Jew joke. Yes, there's a baby at my feet. And we are live talking about the latest Sunday school lesson. See you there, gents. Don't you love it when people talk out loud so you can hear what they're typing?
Like a boomer.
Like a boomer, wife says. Thank you for that, wife. There goes again, the gain. Quickly, make my face smaller. Save me from myself and my white head. Oh,
You like color.
there we go. And here we go. I couldn't quite convince the AI to create architecture that makes sense for a Middle Eastern setting. So you get vaguely, you can't, it's kind of it's funny. I'm a weird person. But the architecture on display there is like a cross between Gothic and classic Greco-Roman, and it's kind of confusing. Like the arches hint at much more Greco-Roman, the solid stone styling and whatnot. You'd expect that more like Venice, somewhat. But then I don't know. But then these spires and stuff give you more of a Gothic feel. Could be also. Yeah, it's funny to me how the term Gothic started to represent weird, weird chicks wearing dark clothes and feeling miserable about life, or pretending to feel miserable at life for attention, as it were, and men who are miserable, but back then, instead of being a weird gamma fedora guy, you'd dress up in weird paint colors and black and pretend to be a vampire. How did that happen? From like one of the best, most intricate, light architectural styles that almost ever existed. I mean, yeah, it looks pretty hinky, like if you add a bunch of like clouds and thunder and lightning behind it, but so do most things. Most architecture, if you make it look run down and have lightning, thunder, and clouds and whatnot, it's going to look pretty creepy. Like when you look at a Gothic cathedral, it's one of the most gorgeous, like with the flying buttresses. Also a fun name, flying buttress. Cracked me up. Yes, I took art history classes back in the day. Don't ask. Buttresses. You got to keep your self-interest somehow. Also, I mean, that's quite the name for just like an arch, like for a fancy arch thing that was used for support onto a larger edifice, so they can get higher, more lofty roofs with less
curves for a reason.
curves. Ah. Anyway, if you've ever seen the interior of a Gothic cathedral, or the outside one, especially, it's so airy with the light, it's so shiny, it's bright, and yet somehow Gothic became oh well. I'm getting, man, we haven't started anything. I haven't even read the title, and I got stuck on a tangent criticizing the architecture amalgamation kit bashing that the AI did. It's funny to me, like people don't understand like the people who are worried about AI replacing artists don't understand what artists do, real artists, right? And artists who are getting replaced by AI aren't real artists. Like they're kit bashers. This is. I know. Here I go. It seems like there's always something that I put my hands into at some point, my fingers into. Like there was a time when I was trying to train myself into becoming a graphic artist right after my first son was born, but I just didn't have enough time, and life kind of got away from me. So I never put enough time into learning the drawing aspect, but I learned a lot of the mechanical aspects, a lot of the what you're going for when you make concept art and that kind of stuff, and a lot of the science stuff for certain things. If you wanted to make a spaceship that seems right for a video game, you need to know a little bit about physics and stuff. So I was trying to learn all that. Most graphic artists would look down on kit bashing. Like they might do some kit bashing, and if you don't know what that is, it's just when you take different elements from different styles and you slap them all together, often just copying and pasting and trying to make something look kind of cool. And sometimes it looks okay, but there's always something a little off about it. All AI does is kit bash. That's all it does. It takes something from here, slaps it all together, and goes. And then you can train the kit bashing to be more and more to your liking through steady. It's not quite programming, but you get the term. You give it a theme. You narrow the theme for the kit bashing, and it bashes as many assets as it can find online together through a really fast processing engine, and poof, you get the image. Now, this is also why the more public, if you will, the more common what you're trying to make, like fantasy sailboat. There's tons of fantasy sailboats drawn online, meaning there's lots and lots of things for the AI to kit bash with. Yep. I had a lot of trouble when I was first using the AI art because I'm a unique person and people don't draw the things in my head. So, like when I'm like I have this man, I'm sorry this tangent's going long, but whatever. You guys are here. Oh, hey, Skydog. I've been here. You're late. Skydog distracted me with buttresses again. Oh, yes, I was late by 2 minutes. 5 minutes? 2 minutes? Whatever. Glad you're here. YouTube actually told me that you weren't here. Freaking YouTube. Anyway, I had in one of my stories, fantasy stories, the one, by the way, Skydog, that I would love to make a D&D campaign for if I could find normal people to play D&D.
Call it D&D.
You're right. I guess I could
Give
just
it a different name.
Skydogs Express. Skydog Fantasy. Adventures with Skydog.
Adventures of
Sky.
Skydog events.
I have in this concept a continent-sized tree where an entire kingdom is on the tree and interacts with it. Now, megafauna is definitely in a lot of different creative things, but outside of, say, a town, maybe a city in a tree, that's as big as you get, or mega-sized in the sense of, like, in Valheim, they went with the entire world is on a tree, if that makes sense. And so you see in the sky massive branches, but it just looks like a normal world. As a result, whenever I was trying to make an AI art representation of this continent-spanning living organism with an actual kingdom on it, with with the branches, the flatter section of the branches being so large that they literally have picked up dirt and mountains and stuff on it, the AI just farts in my face and can't figure out what I want. Because it doesn't have that unique concept enough in the interwebs to steal from and then kit bash it together. Without content already created, the AI has nothing. I also had that trouble a lot when I was trying to make the Tunnels of Woe, which is oddly the same universe. Trying to describe a city inside a cathedral. But that broke the AI. It didn't know how to understand the concept of a cathedral so big that it could fit a city inside it, right?
Pregnant cathedral.
Yes. Oh, the cat's eating all the leftovers off that plate. Oh, well. So, that's Random Tangent Central. Anyway, I'll actually get to Sunday school now that we're 12 minutes in. I figure you like the tangents, though, Skydog, and I like to hang out. Oh, here we go. Lesson 17. 17 or 16. Whatever. The Crumbling Monarchy. The more things change, the more they stay the same. And the dynasty of kings after Solomon managed to repeat much of the judges' patterns only with kings who often held to the legacy of their father before them. This will be exasperated by the splitting of the kingdom, a punishment called down on David's dynasty because of Solomon's sin, with the southern kingdom being referred to as Judah and the northern one as Israel. It will be enacted by a man called up by God. Now, I already have a tangent for you. This is an interesting thing to study because legacy, right? Dynasties. It's fascinating to see how, unlike with the judges, right, where you would have one judge, his sons wouldn't become the next judge, right? It was just a judge and done. The Israelites would quickly fall back into rebellion against God. Like within a generation, they'd be already out. Sometimes faster, like Samuel's time as a judge, there was lots of ups and downs, and so it's interesting to see kings that they would stick to God more. Kings were sticking to God, and they were more likely to maintain that momentum towards following God with a son of the king who had followed God. But the second you would have that, but the second that legacy got broken, usually about three kings in, if you will. Something happened. He gets betrayed. I don't know. One goes back to the old the that one. His sons will do that for a certain amount of time. But the Northern Kingdom, it was a whole lot of that happening. Son after son after son, just sticking to their evil crap.
No.
Oh, hey.
No.
My toddler has a broom. Ah! I'm happy you want to clean, little girl, but do you have to attack me?
She helped me empty the dishwasher.
Oh, God. Look how she has a broom. Oh. I mean, she has the right idea, but dang.
She tried to tell me I need to
Anyway, what's important about this is why legacy and dynasties are so important. You want a generational war against evil, you have to have children and set a legacy for them so that they keep pushing the war forward. It's amazing who understands this concept so thoroughly. Think about how disgusting and just utterly unnatural a lot of the relationships we see amongst like the upper echelons of society, right? How evil they are and all this, and yet they're always having children, and their children always seem to be pushing their legacies forward. It's a little. How many Rockefellers have we gone through at this? Still there, right? Or if we can go Rothschild, right? That shit goes all the way back to before Napoleon. You know, there's no reason, especially with God on our side, that we can't create. That the broom trying to murder me, my child trying to. We can't create similar dynasties that God can use for his goals on Earth. But you can't have that unless you have a mentality of having children, setting up dynasties, and setting up land for them to live off of. You know, one of my biggest complaints with the Catholic Church is this, in the Coptic Church too, though they don't do it as much, is this push towards celibacy, like taking overboard, assuming that the ultimate is a man who is celibate, and, right? His Paul's whole coping mechanism, where he's like, "I wish you could all be celibate." I think Paul. I love Paul is the bridge between the Old Testament and the New Testament. That's something you all need to understand. This is why much in particular is because when teachings, he's connecting the Old Testament to the New Testament, to the Gospels. He is the bridge between them. He takes care of a lot of the holes that the supposed Muslim apologetic peoples try to talk about, right? He plugs all the theological issues, highlighting how, in fact, the law is not being destroyed, it's being fulfilled and put into its new state. Why is that camera still doing this? Am I that did I lose more hair? And it's just like trying to make it brighter constantly. God, I need a better webcam. Anyway, right. So maybe I should put my hat on. I don't know where it is right now. I think a child ran off with it. Right. But in other, I think Paul kind of went, people take him all overboard and go a little too onto it. Like the original point of humanity, right? We brought this up. What was the very first commandment humanity was ever given? Be fruitful and multiply. God's original plan still holds true. You know, the best way that Christianity has ever spread is it spread through Christians having more babies and spreading. That's always been the best way to spread your ideology. It's always been the best way to spread the truth, is to implant the truth in your kids and have lots of kids and them have lots of kids and implant the truth. It's always been the fastest, most efficient method. Need an inroad to start with something like, you know, with the original Roman Empire, for example, really gave it a kick in the pants to get things started. But after that, it was Christian children. And since you're always going to have black sheep who fade away, you need spread, implant. Exactly. Now, I don't want to underplay celibacy. It has its point. It has its purpose, right? Your pastor, your preacher, your priest were never celibate. How could they? They were sons of Aaron, not this Aaron, a different Aaron. Okay, my name's Aaron. I'm named after the Aaron in the Bible, right? That was the point. Without more sons, there would have been no more priests. It was supposed to be a dynasty of Aaron. That was what the priests were, the brother of Moses. That so much so that when other people tried it, God tried to usurp Aaron's authority back in the old Israel camp. God literally opened up their entire families. That's how serious God felt about it. That's serious enough that I don't think I would never be comfortable calling myself a priest or anyone around me a priest. Like, if you're not a descendant of Aaron, you're playing with something that you shouldn't be playing with, calling yourself a priest of God. It's why it's probably a good thing to call them something, but they should not be official priests. Yes, even the name might make sense. Specific rituals and stuff. But at the same time, right, the blood of Christ and this whole act tends to cover up a lot of things. But that's just one. Keep your mind going. And I get on the Coptics case because you can't have leaders who aren't having children. Okay, it breaks generation. It breaks them from legacy being passed down, continuing the trend of following God, of generational warfare. You break the generation, right? You don't have more children. You break the warfare, and it gets cut off. And your leaders need to be on board with that. It's ignoring legacy is one of the dumbest things we've ever done. Seriously.
No.
Like people, I get on this a lot. Soon, more people are going to believe like me. George Washington should have become king. He betrayed his people by not becoming king. Ironically, he thought, right, he was taking the higher road. No. He needed to start a dynasty that pushed America down the road he wanted. What was the road he wanted? He wanted to break ties with Europe so we didn't get caught up in all their crazy wars and shit, right? On a sheer political level, but on a spiritual level, even more, not getting connected with the ancient evil that was already over here, right? And I'm sure that's not the way he would have seen it, but that's the way I would have seen it. And it's the way hopefully one of his sons or future kids might have seen it. I gotta see. I'm pretty sure he had some descendants to work with, but you get the point. If we had started a dynasty from the man who was like, no tying allegiances to the old world, we would have avoided a lot of death and suffering. Right? What a pain. But instead, they create this obnoxious system where every 4 to 8 years, the entire system gets overthrown. And they praise themselves going, oh, but, it was a peaceful transition. No, it was just allowed the sieving families around everything to slowly control and push everything more and more into imperial nonsense. And had no defenses against guys like Abraham Lincoln becoming mini dictators for a while and turning everything into an empire. Wow. Anyway, dynasties are important. And I bring this up for young men specifically because you need to be making these dynasties. You need to be having children, all right? Some of you may need to be celibate, but we're going to be numbers low, so it better be a very few of you. And understand, the people who are celibate in the Bible are celibate for very specific reasons. And usually, it's not one category either. Like, some prophets have children. Some prophets were women who had husbands. Some prophets were celibate like Jeremiah. Jeremiah was celibate, right? Some of them were commanded to get wives like Hosea. That poor Hosea, his entire life was basically became a metaphor. Oh, I'm glad God didn't call me to that. Yeah, if you don't know, he was called to marry a prostitute and basically told she was going to be unfaithful. And she kept going back to prostitution, and he kept having to bring her back and loving her. That was a tough life for that dude, man. I do not envy that. And basically, it was a metaphor for how Israel was treating God. And woo, I mean, I get the point, God, but that's rough. But yeah, pointing out some prophets were called to celibacy, some weren't. Notice the key thing there, they weren't all celibate. Moreover, the original popes were not celibate. You know where we get the term pope? We get the term pope from papa, as in his son would be there calling the pope dad, vague Italian and Latin, and the people around them heard that and they just ended up calling the pope that after a while. That's why the Pope has a different name than the Patriarch in Rome, and the Patriarch in the Coptic Patriarch, and what the Bishop of Alexandria was called, which, by the way, had equal power. Like, before Islam destroyed an entire third of Christianity, it was a 3-part system. They shared power between 3 bishops. It was the bishop in Rome who became the Pope. It was the bishop in Constantinople who became the Patriarch of the Coptic Church. And then there was the Bishop of Alexandria, and they would have basically equal power between them. Little facts. Bothersome facts, apparently. And, they didn't change it for some moral reason, by the way. It wasn't, he should not be connected to mortal issues and he shouldn't be having sex and feeding the body. It should be a sacrifice or whatever, and to take on this ultimate office. No, they started demanding popes and priests be celibate so that they couldn't inherit church property. It was all about the money from the very beginning. Like, that one blew my mind when I found out about that. Like, well, then this entire thing's bullshit. Like, last I checked, you call them priests. They should be inheriting church property. They should be. That's the point. They should be inheriting it, just like the priests in the Bible times inherited church property, essentially. They didn't inherit the temple itself, but they inherited the various towns that were set apart for the priests. They inherited those towns and the lands, and the fathers were responsible, and they were connected to the land. I don't know about you, would prefer pastors whose sons in family line were connected to the land. Like, imagine you went into a pastor situation, and instead of having a guy who, let's say he was born in Nebraska, he went to seminary in, we'll go extra crazy, we'll say Boston. I don't know where big seminaries are. I guess these days, I don't know where the Baptists do their big seminary stuff. We'll say Southwestern is one I've heard of, right? And that, if I remember correctly, maybe just in Texas, right? He does seminary in Texas. He does some college in this shake things up in Maryland. And then he got his first youth pastor role in freaking Oregon because that was what was available. And then he became a pastor in LA. Right. How is that guy supposed to be connected to the community that he's serving? He's not. He's an outsider. Imagine instead of that situation, which every single, name me a church that has a pastor from the area, whose family is from the area, who can put back his line of generation to the founding of the original church. Is there one pastor you've ever ran into? It doesn't matter if it's a mega church or a small church who fits that description. No, you don't, because they all have denominations, and the denominations split people up like that and push them all around, and they jump around from one pastoralship to another, and that makes them more loyal to the denomination rather than to their local parish or their local community or their local church or the people that they should be serving. See, when you tie priests to the land, to the church property that they're supposed to be taking care of, and their kids take care of that property, they are encouraged to take care of that community and serve them well. Why? Because their kids are directly affected. When you break them up like this, that makes them more loyal to the denomination, to the larger organization, not to the people and the smaller groups and the communities, and to the churches themselves. The actual people that make up the church, they are more loyal. Priests are more loyal to the Pope, right? Pastors are more loyal to their local denomination or whatever leader's been voted in that year, right? Why? Because where are they going to get their next pastor role? They're going to get it from their denomination. Oh, hi, Donna. I'm a little late. I'm being hugged by a toddler. Gosh, this soapbox. I'm 30 minutes in and I read the first paragraph. Skydog, you're my gauge. If I've gone too far into a tangent, slap me around a little bit. But right, I didn't name this soapbox. I can't believe I'm still tangenting. I've been doing this for 15 minutes, but that's okay. Right? Like I've seen it because I'm a missionary's son, right? I see him with pastor, and before that, my dad was a pastor. The dude's in Peru now, right? He raised me in Nicaragua. He was a pastor in California in multiple. Why slap you around when your daughter's slap you around when your daughter's vaccine for Peru? Yeah, she's got this covered. Anyway, that's pretty funny, right? And it clicked in my mind as I was looking at it. For example, my dad kept encouraging me to join a church in Springfield, and it was a guy who we'd known and he was Californian, and he was preaching to the Panamas, and now he was preaching at a church in Missouri. And I'm just thinking to myself,
him and his brothers.
He had no connection to the community, not really. It just became another corporate entity. So much so, like, well, one of these days, I'm gonna do it because I don't care how about nerd I am. I need to go for a quick series pointing out, because this is important for people to understand propaganda. Well, I wonder what, I really enjoy this. We should pick a day and do a live stream where I pick apart movies for you guys and old TV shows and stuff, things that people like too, and like modern stuff, and help point out the imagery and what they're actually trying to tell you. And I know other people do it, but they haven't done it like me. Oh, yes. We might even start with Stargate SG-1. One of my all-time favorite sci-fi series, which is unfortunately atheist gobbledygook. Very craftily packaged atheist crap. And I love that damn show, man. I love that damn show. All right. You should, like typical 90s, right? It's all the only religion that's allowed to be positive is a vaguely Buddhist space Buddhism religion, and then all other religions are crap. Every Christian involved is, of course, a coward or pig-headed or stupid or literally trying to destroy the world or greedy, right? And then every Buddhist-like character is the saint. Which, by the way, my wife can tell you, being around Buddhists, is not the way it is. Buddhists tend to be very greedy bastards, okay? Tend to be assholes. They have a huge problem with sexual misconduct within their temples, by the way. Which, who would have guessed you put a bunch of young kids with supposed celibate priests, what do you think is going to happen? Especially when their religion where there's not technically any God, and even if you do die and get put down a peg, you have a chance to redeem yourself, right? It doesn't give you a lot of motivation to keep redeeming yourself, if you know what I mean. And all that aside, I got really sidetracked. But you get the point. Imagine if pastors, or whatever we want to call them, were tied to that church, that community, the original founding, and had a biological line to the original founding father of the church. And yeah, I think that would be a very interesting system, a legacy system that should be encouraged. Also, some Coptic is going to need to explain to me at some point why they have this concept. Like the priest of, if you don't know, Coptic church, there's two types of priests. There's the priest of the black, so they wear black robes. Those are the ones who would be, you would consider a pastor, right? They're the guys out in the street. They're the guys who running the actual church services and stuff. They're the ones that you would go to for advice. And those guys actually have to be married and have well-behaved kids and stuff. They follow Paul's advice about elders being married with good, with well-behaved families. And this makes sense in Christ's very perspective of, my child just headbutted me.
She's mad at me.
Of by their fruit you will know them. How do you know if someone's a good man? Well, look at their children. How are their children acting? Which, by the way, not me, but my sisters have kind of shown that my dad probably shouldn't be a pastor or a missionary. Gonna lay that out there. Anyway, you could say I'm a black sheep of the family in a funny, nutty way. Yeah, it's like a double negative. I'm a double black sheep, which makes me the not black sheep. But the whole family's gone weird. But
Gray.
I'm gray.
I don't know.
I'm old. I'm an old sheep.
A sign of wisdom.
And then I lost it as my hair fell out. Anyway, I should probably move on, but I spend so much time on that tangent because I want to hammer home how important legacy is. And if you want something to last generations, you need to tie it to the children. You need to make sure the leadership are not celibate, that they have children and that they're tied into the next generation's well-being. It's just a necessity. It doesn't fix everything. As I pointed out, there is the reverse evil version of this where they have generations of evil. And you need to watch for those. But if evil, with all their twisted crap they do that really actually encourages smaller families and all kinds of crap, can make legacies of evil, then we have no excuses. If following Christ properly, we would have larger families. We would have more of an opportunity to keep our legacies going. But hey, I'm just a crazy bald dude whose head keeps making the gain on his camera go crazy white. This camera needs to stop bald shaming me. That's all I have to say. I'm going to give it to this. Jeroboam, the man, the idiot, the dude. And at that time of Jerusalem, the prophet Ahijah, the Shilonite, and then Ahijah found him on the road. Now Ahijah had dressed himself in a new garment, and the two of them were alone in the open country. Then Ahijah laid hold and tore it into 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, "Take for yourself 10 pieces, for thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I am about to tear the kingdom from the hand of Solomon, and will give you 10 tribes. But he shall have one tribe, for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city that I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, because they have forsaken me and worship Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh, the god of Moab, and Milcom, the god of the Ammonites. And they have not walked in my ways, doing what is right in my sight, and keeping in my statutes and my rules, as David his father did. Nevertheless, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him ruler I chose, who kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hands, and I will give it to you, 10 tribes. Yet to his son I will give one tribe, that David my servant may always have a lamp before me in Jerusalem, the city where I have chosen him to put my name. And I will take you, and you shall reign over all, king over Israel. And if you will listen to all that I command you my ways, and do what is right in my eyes by keeping my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, then I will be with you and will build you a sure house, as I built for David, and I will give Israel to you. And I will afflict the offspring of David because of this, but not forever. kill Jeroboam. But Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt to king of Egypt, Shishak, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. 1 Kings 11:29 through 40. It's funny the amount of names on here that I've read and I didn't read out loud. They're funny. Shishak. So interestingly, I want to point out, and this kind of highlights wearing sunglasses. Sky dog. This highlights the fact that nothing in this fallen realm will always stand true, because Solomon did fall away. Now he's kept the statutes of David for a long time, but like David, ironically, fell for something similar, and that was women. Women was Solomon's failure, just like David's failure. Which, what are you going to do, alphas? And in Solomon's case, he had everything. He got so rich, he just got influenced by various women, and he started relying on his. And that led, some sources say literally to witchcraft. And he is considered in a lot of cultic circles, they've kind of latched onto his name. Now, whether that's a souling of Solomon's name or a reality that's been passed down to one cultic group to another, but they do revere him as a in the day. But what are you going to do? So, again, it doesn't last every time. Nothing in this world is perfect, but a lot of times it will last. So I'll keep going. As usual, God has a similar calling for kings. Follow him, drive the nation and people, ensure there is justice in the land, and the Almighty will bless the descendants of your dynasty as long as they do the same. A reasonable calling, and one all national leaders should take heed of. But as was mentioned, this simple covenant would be broken by Jeroboam when he claimed his kingdom in the north. Then Jeroboam built Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim and lived there. And he went out from there and built Penuel. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now the kingdom will turn back to the house of David. If this people go up to offer sacrifices in the temple of the Lord at Jerusalem, then the heart of this people will turn again to the king of Judah, and they will kill me and return to Rehoboam, king of Judah. So the king took 2 calves of gold. Yep, calves again. And he said to the people, you've gone up to Jerusalem long enough. Behold your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And he set one in Bethel, and the other he put in Dan. Then this thing became a sin, for the people went as far as Dan to be before one. He also made temples in high places and appointed priests from among all the people who were not of the Levites. 1 Kings 12:25-31. Always the freaking gold calves. That's right. Freaks and gold fall up to his old tricks. And the pattern of spiritual war continues, only in this case because we're dealing with kings and kings. The cycles are longer. The sons of Jeroboam would take after their father, and upheaval around the throne would ensure more dynasties would come and fall. Be afflicted by the sin of Jeroboam. Yeah, it's a big thing. Even when there was a good king, creepy imagery, we'll get to that. They often wouldn't completely follow God. So they would, maybe they tear down some of the Asherish poles, maybe they do this, maybe they do that, but they wouldn't tear down all the high places. Maybe they would tear down the stuff the Baal, but they wouldn't tear down the Asherish poles, and people would still pour themselves out, but they would still be overall better. It was very rare to have a king in this time period who would follow God completely. They always wouldn't quite go all the way and destroy all the symbols of evil within their midst. Really annoying. So ingrained were these beliefs that later kings would be unwilling to tear down. It's almost like I wrote this or something. The Asherah poles and high places to Baal, even when they were following God's commands. The modern Christian can relate to this season of Israel's turmoil in the northern kingdom. Yet have no power to purge even overt satanic imagery from our government squares. Yeah, here's a picture of the Satanic Shrine in, I believe, a small town in Indiana. I gotta go over that. Now, funny enough, this shrine was destroyed by a Christian man, as he should, and he was instantly put in jail for it. So, hey, that shows you had the power there. But, and it was funny to me, the comments in Reddit and stuff when the dude vandalizer like, huh, blah, 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 like they can't do any freedom of religion. And my answer to that is, yeah, no, we can't, because when we do freedom of religion, you take all of our symbols, like, you know, the 10 Commandments and all that stuff. You take it out of all the government offices telling us, oh, freedom of religion. You can't put this over somebody else. Don't take it. Right. And then you put your crap, your satanic stuff there instead, showing us that, you know, all this freedom of religion stuff is just an excuse to destroy our religion. So, no, we're not going to do that anymore. And you should be terrified, because my children and their children are going to be so on the other side of laugh as you burn at the stake and do about it. Sorry. You had a chance to stay civil and you just couldn't do it. So here we go. Back to this. I will take iced coffee. You do that iced coffee. Are you ever going to go to sleep, toddler butt? It's like 11. It's 11:18. Are you not tired yet? Oh, hey, my hat. Thank you. Let's see if this helps. I'm going to laugh if it like stops doing it now that my bald head is not. It's already doing it better. Freaking bald shaming around here. That is pretty funny. I have to admit. We're good. Yeah. He keeps me humble. Anyway.
Your lack of hair does that already.
That's true. All right. And are forced to fund organizations that Christians and are forced to fund organizations that facilitate the sacrifice of babies to dark gods in the form of abortion, which is just the sacrifice of the unborn. No, not all women know what they are doing, but many in fact do. Forgive me for sharing this with you. And parents, I should have done. I gotta fix that. Strongly advise you to show utmost discretion and only show teens and preteens to see this. But yes, witches actively tell each other how to sacrifice the unborn babies in their wombs for power. Here is the proof, but view this with a warning. This is the kind of darkness that will disturb the young and turn a man's heart dark with unattainable vengeance. So look into the darkness, but don't let its madness overwhelm you. Now, I warned this too. I purposely picked a video that was nasty, but not as bad as other ones. Like, yeah, there are much worse ones. Like, you might click on this and go, oh, well, as bad as this is kind of weak tea. Yeah, I purposely picked something more weak tea, but this can lead you down a rabbit hole. Like, when I first found out about this crazed witchcraft connected to abortions, I went down a rabbit hole that I am scarred for the rest of my life. Let's just say I have no more mercy in my heart for any pro-abortion people ever, because I have no idea which ones of them are just confused, which one of them are just perverts, and which one of them are just the other scum of humanity that would just slaughter even their own flesh and blood for just a leg up in the world. Disgusting. No right to exist. My wife actually found a very fascinating video.
About the words I am.
Yeah. I'm getting there. Where it talked about in the Last Supper, right? In the sacrament, what does Jesus say? He says, "This is my body given to you." Right? The holy sacrament that I sacrifice myself so you may live. Abortion is the inversion. So what is their mantra? This is my body. My body, my choice. My body.
You die, so I have to.
You're right. You die, so I live.
Is what the devil says.
Yeah. And man, when you even this more weak tea, like when you follow that link and you just listen to this disgusting woman, it's absolutely disgusting. And you sit there and you realize just the depravity of it, the weird joy of knowing that the power that she's going to obtain after killing her new baby. It's just, it threat, like I said, it threatens to make you have just your heart to go dark. Enough evil in this world, and they're gonna get theirs. But careful, like I said, there's not enough of us willing, not till the boomers all die out, to band together on these things yet. Stop your chance to help the next generation get ready. So don't do it now. No calls of violence yet. I don't care how much they deserve it. No calls of violence. What she said. And it hits me all the more being a father and holding my children and remembering what they were as babies too. And it's just
crazy how crazy the hospitals went even.
Deeper rabbit hole. You can connect from this video to more, and they get crazier and wilder. And you realize there's a lot of them. A lot of witchcraft around this. And, no. I'm sorry. I know I don't view it as that, but it doesn't matter. Enough of them do. And I come to the conclusion, the same that I came with libertarians, is that it's just an excuse. And it always has been just an excuse. Libertarianism, as I've always brought up, is just an excuse to have your depravity, right? And to tie it up in a nice philosophical bow so you can pretend. It's a lot harder to convince people to listen to you when you're like, oh, I just want the porn. I just want boobs, right? But when you say like, oh, well, is it really morally right for you to complain about the boobs when you're okay with this stabbing and the violence and the burr, right? That, oh, hey, maybe it isn't my bald head and the camera's just insane.
Literally bald head.
Anyway, I'll keep wearing my hat just in case. And, right, you can't convince someone just going in, they're going to look at you, oh, you want boobs. Well, it's kind of destructive and nasty, so I'd rather take the boobs from you, you disgusting whore, you disgusting little man-child thing. And, but if they flower it up and they say, oh, right, is it morally right for you to tell me what I can do in my own home, blah, 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 discrowning all of the destruction on society that pornography brings for all the addiction and all the other crap that comes from it. Right. Well, I realize abortion's the same thing. There's no philosophy there, right? It's just I want no consequences. It's a very males have it too, but the feminine nature really pushes towards no consequences for my actions. No consequences, right? There's plenty of weaknesses, and for man, I don't want to pretend like I'm just attacking females with this, but the female tendency to push for a lack of responsibility. It is like the personification of this. And there really is no philosophy behind it. Whenever you hear some feminist or whatever try to, bring up like, oh, the one person in the zillionth way who might have not, didn't have the abortion would have died, blah, blah, blah. No, that never happened. Ignore them. They don't care about that person, right? They don't care about that person, this fake person that they've created in their head, or maybe they found one historical counsel. They don't care. All they want to do is kill their babies so they can continue with their disgusting lifestyles.
And try and call it healthcare.
Yeah. And in extreme cases, are actually actively using those babies to further their own state in life through witchcraft and other powers and other things. And you might not believe in the witchcraft, but they do. All right. And they do thoroughly. So don't engage with them on that level. Like what I found was extremely effective with libertarian tards, right? Was to not engage with them on a philosophical level and just continuously point out the reality. Like, let's say you start getting in a conversation with them about drugs, just point out that all they want is drugs, and eventually everything collapses because that's all they actually want. They just want the drugs. They don't actually care about society. They don't really care about the philosophy. They just want an excuse to have more drugs. So they've fixated on this one thing because that's all they actually care about is the drugs. Right. In this case, don't engage on them in the philosophical thing. Just constantly point out that they are a whore and they just want to be a whore. And the child's life, a life of a child, is more important than them getting to be a whore. So just call them a whore because that's all they are. And that's all they're ever going to be. And that's painful for me because that's literally my freaking sister in some ways.
Oh, I know. Alien movie reference.
My God, this is an interesting live stream. I'm 55 minutes in. Oh, good. I at least made it halfway through the lesson, so that's good. Oh, yeah. So, yeah. You've been warned about that link. Again, not as intense as some of them, but it could lead into more intense stuff. So that's why I gave all the warnings to begin with. We continue. The sin of tolerance laid down by Jeroboam, and then the sin of tolerance dark gods, his sons, and future non-related kings of Israel followed, was a self-destructive process that they themselves often didn't witness. Our forefathers have laid a similar sin at our feet. Not the founding fathers of America, or even the kings of old in Europe, who all, rightly, worship of foreign gods and religions in their midst. No, softer men who wished with those who would not discourse or reason pushed tolerance upon us. And now that our enemies have taken the reins of power from us, we should not be surprised when they have no tolerance for Christianity, and thus who had been tolerant, and those who had been tolerant.
Huh?
What would you say to me?
Some rings.
Never. This is a hard. We are at war, and Christ Himself makes our struggle clear. Whoever is not with me, Jesus Christ, is against me, and whoever does not gather with me scatters. Matthew 12:30. Ironically, Jesus Christ is literally a Sith. Big line in the it's an old think about it, right? In the Revenge of the Sith, right? He's sitting there, he's on the lava field, he's looking all evil, and he goes, "If you're not with me, you're against me." And what does Obi-Wan say back? Only a Sith deals with absolutes. Yeah. Apparently, Jesus is a Sith. Just thought you should all know. Let's all get our hoods on. Let's face it, the Sith look cooler than the Jedi.
That's why they're like
Dark Lord time. Yeah, don't let your anger control you. Right, because that's another aspect of Buddhism that I haven't brought up, right? This excessive constraint of emotions, though helpful. Like I understand the value of stoicism, but there is a danger there when you go too far down it, where you actually suppress passion and you don't have enough passion to do stuff. Like what motivates you to say, do something that's extremely dangerous? Like even the Stoics should probably have seen this, given that right, in battle, right, they would push for everyone to stand up. But what would motivate you to act in this situation that we live in now? What would motivate enough people to actually act? Anger. If the people actually got angry about something, they would act. And it would spread. And people would do something. Now, it would take stoic-minded men to control that mass and harness them to push it against evil and not just burn themselves out and get controlled by evil who was expecting the outlash, right? But as long as we're excessive about suppressing anger and not using it properly, like God used his anger, and I'm careful with this, right? Even God had to be calmed down sometimes, like Moses convinced God not to destroy the Israelites, right? Again, a decision that I wrote, he probably regretted. I know. Could you imagine, right? Being the one boomer who's not like all the other boomers, interceding on their behalf, and then like 10 years later having to deal with their crap and going, why did I do that? Why didn't I just let them all die? Oh, that's good stuff, babe. Thank you. Oh yeah. That is really good.
Sorry, I didn't get to the cookies.
It's okay. I'll take the coffee. We can do cookies tomorrow. It's been really nice. She didn't got married, and she's just kind of experimenting now. Yeah, she's just learning now, and she's rocking it. She's made some delicious biscuits, delicious homemade bread, and now she's gonna work on cookies. So. Yeah, most people would have started with cookies and didn't maybe tried bread or biscuits. Not my wife. Just one morning, she's like, "I got nothing for breakfast. I'm gonna make biscuits. Let's find something online," and it was delicious.
You literally had no money though.
That was true too. Need drove it. I'm okay with that.
Oh yeah, this Kozak in me.
Oh, excuse me, wife. We didn't have no money. We had $3.75. In the bank account. And I think I had some quarters somewhere.
Good thing you get paid weekly.
Mm-hmm. It gets expensive feeding kids as they get older, man. They exaggerated how expensive kids were. We make it work on very little. But now that their appetites are increasing, I'm feeling it more. I'm not going to lie.
I have to double every recipe now.
It's pretty exciting. I'm gonna have
when
to.
They're teenagers, it's gonna be tripled.
When they're teenagers, I'm gonna have to buy two
when they're teenagers.
2 whole packets of bacon for one meal. It's gonna be crazy.
This is your herb garden. This is your.
You better go find me a wild boar, boy, because I'm not buying all this bacon. Okay, back to this. I hope I finished all my tangents. I'm sorry if you like that Muslim guy or the Buddhist. Thanks, wife. Buddhist guru or the burping wife behind me. Maybe even a Mormon, or even find an atheist less annoying than normal. It doesn't matter. God doesn't care if they are moral, or if they are more moral than the current mess of an empire running the Christian world. The Almighty may even I see them. She's being so cute. The Almighty may even use them to punish the West, just as He used Babylon and Persia to punish. Does not make them His followers, and thus on His side of the war. If they Christ, then they are at the mercy of our enemy and are controlled by Him. No matter how moral, no matter what you admire about them, if they don't follow Christ, they will be a stumbling block to your children and children's children. In some ways, the moral ones are even worse because, you have this whole problem. When they are teens, you'll come home and the fridge will be empty, like everything gone. So, speaking from experience, it's kind of good to know.
We'll give them a mini fridge, and this is their weekly thing.
Maybe we'll have the mini fridge hidden in our room. Emergency supply.
I mean, we got the wine cooler in our room.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, in some ways, moral people who are refusing Christ are even worse because your kids will concentrate on the wrong thing and they'll go, well, what makes us better than them? But it's not about being better. It's about following the true God, the true Christ, the true King, the one who breaks the power of the devil, right? Don't get me wrong. The devil hates morality, naturally. And that's why Muslims are kind of lower on his totem pole. You can kind of see this, right? Who got sacrificed the most as he was stirring up Islam, and right? Muslims, right? They got killed in masses. And why did he do that? Because he was stirring them up. The whole point was to stir them up back, right? Christianity had beaten them down so much over the years. God had been on our side with that. We'd beaten them down to the point where they were no longer these crazy slaving lunatics that they had been for generations. It's great. And it took generations, not that many, probably 2 generations to get them finally back to the point where they'll start doing that again. Well, they were still doing it amongst each other, but we'd finally pushed them to the point where they were only doing it in their own countries and not bothering us. Took probably how many hundreds of years, probably like 1,000 years to get to that point where they were finally only killing and raping and murdering each other and leaving us alone for the most part, right? That finally happened. And then it only took 2 generations to stir them up again, and annoying. But
it's funny with the judges, sometimes only took one.
Yeah. And I want to point out with the Buddhist one, for example, right? That to me is a clear, like, just the fact that atheists like fell in love with Buddhism cracks me up to no end. Like, I hate all religion except for this one over here. This one's great. Like, what? It makes me feel all tingly in my nipples. Ooh. This is the best way I can describe it. Oh, it doesn't use the term God, but
How enlightening.
and then they just use different terms for basically the same concept. Like the animism in Indians, so that's just paganism. That's all it is. Like, oh, but it's literally nature. No, what was a pagan god? A pagan god was like the representation of a river or lightning or something. That's exactly what the spirits were to the Indians. There's no difference between animism and paganism. They are literally the same fucking thing. I get annoyed with some things sometimes.
Funny because there's this kind of essential oil that's based off of made after like gula or something like that. It's the actual brand of the essential oil.
I don't know where I'm gonna go with that.
Stuff
I'm mesmerized by my child still falling asleep. Oh.
Yeah, she kept passing me the plates and then the silverware.
And then she tried to clean and almost killed me. And to clean when she killed me.
She was laughing so she handed me a plate.
His big smiles. Oh, sorry. I'm so distracted. She loves to make that smile. Okay. So, as I was pointing out with that, right?
Daddy's heart.
And this again, and I've brought this up in previous streams, is why you have so much Islam in Europe right now, so much raping, the rather more situation, but for some reason they're not killing all the fags, right? They're killing, like, when you hear an attack, it's on like a priest or a church, or it's an attack on a bunch of little girls or something, just stealing girls and stuff from families, right? It's never an attack on a gay bar. Right? It was Charlie Hebdo was the only one I can think of. And that was because Charlie Hebdo had stepped out of line, right? They stepped out of line. They got slapped by the devil and his cronies for doing that. As long as they didn't step out of line, the Muslims wouldn't leave them. Muslims would leave them alone. What were all the little girls in Ruthermore? What were they doing? What did they do to step out of? Nothing. They were just blonde and there, and no one was protecting them, right? It's so irritating sometimes when you have this situation. The real problem is the average person cannot take nuance, right? There can be aspects of these religions that point to the truth, 100%. But the problem is they are run by entities that follow the devil. It's funny. Like, I say that, like, you have no idea how funny it is for me to say, like, when I was younger, right? When I was younger, I would have been the first to, like, not necessarily snicker, but, like, point at a guy who said that and think of him as, like, the out-of-touched old lady who was like, is it Satan? And I have become that, and I'm only, like, 30-something. This is great. It's like that bell curve thing, right? Where you have the picture of the stupid guy and the really smart people, and then like the average people in the middle, right? The really dumb people are like, "It's Satan," and then the people in the middle, like, "No, it's not Satan. They're just confused the religious aspects, and they're all trying to." And then the smart people are like, "It's Satan, bro." That's what it is. That's what it is. And I believe I had. And the only reason why I ever thought like that in the first place was all the propaganda thrown at me that I wanted to take in, and then some of my own ideas as a young man. That, the real issue with a lot of atheists is they never mature enough to discount their original ideas, which aren't original.
They don't have any right.
Yeah. Like, a lot of them will latch on to the few ideas they had when they were teenagers and never let those go. I think a lot of that is pride and
then they
childish
think they're
pride.
so deep.
Yeah, it's like a childish pride thing about it, and they just won't let these ideas go because it's like core to their personalities now. It's very bothersome. Very annoying. Huh. Anyway. Another reason why I think we should have like a movie night thing, not just because I want to rewatch some of our old stuff and tear it apart.
Because you got no one else to hang out with.
Well, no, is I want to I want to highlight this progression. Like, we didn't get to this point where we have a lot of people in what you want to call them, in the contrary culture, if you will, the ones fighting against a lot of evil. We didn't get to this point where they're overly positive towards Buddhism and Muslims and general Eastern religion from nowhere. All right, this has been a huge buildup, like propaganda starting from sci-fi going back ages. All right, ages. You know what I mean. It's been a generation or two of constant propaganda towards this, and it's finally making fruition. Now, I joke around and I mention how I'm utterly impressed with God's ability throughout the Bible to build up to his cosmic slap, which we're going to get like next semester, next year. We get to talk about it a lot. It's great. Like, God does this ultimate revenge plot and takes the devil with his pants completely down, slaps him, kicks his ass, kicks him around, throws a bunch of crap in his face, looks him in the eye and says, "All right, I'm going to go save a bunch of people now. When I come back, you're going to pay." And then he leaves. And the devil, knowing the whole time he's fucked. Knowing he's already lost. Occasionally in his darkest thoughts, thinking maybe I can still win. Right? His most desperate moments. Yes. Now, I've brought up, right, this is the danger of Eastern religion and mentality, is I see in Eastern religion, especially like Chinese central stuff, right? A mentality like the yin and the yang, a balance, right? What are they trying to do with that? Well, the balance between good and evil. Why do they want? And they often portray this. I have this in cartoons. There's a lot of comics that have this, especially in the DC universe. This cosmic balance entities, these chaos entities, and these positive entities, and they're in constant balance, so they can't get out of balance, so they like run the universe and all this karma and all this shit. And all that is, right? It's a break from our Western evil that basically wants to start the apocalypse because they think they can win if they do it just right. The Eastern side, in my opinion, is much more dangerous, much more practical. I mean, well, the Western side is much more dangerous to you and I, if that makes any sense. But Eastern is much more dangerous in the long run. Why? Because it's a concentration not on starting the apocalypse, but on pushing the apocalypse off indefinitely. The idea being, if they keep the yin and yang, the good and evil, perfectly balanced, where they have power on earth, but it's not so evil that God has justification and is forced to destroy the earth again, like with the flood, then it will never happen, and the apocalypse will never happen, and he'll never come back. As we've seen, God's plans can be delayed. We've highlighted it in multiple lessons. It has most certainly been delayed. It is undeniable in the Bible that this has happened. We brought up Moses in this stream, right? Remember, Moses has to convince God not to destroy the Israelites. And what was God going to do? He's going to kill the Israelites and make Moses the new Abraham, which would have delayed it by hundreds of years, right? His plans. The Eastern religion, Buddhism, all that, is designed to create a world where Jesus Christ never comes back, because this situation, the prophetic set pieces never come into play. Perfectly balanced, with them in control, with just enough good that God can't come in and just destroy it according to his own like rituals and stuff. Like remember that whole thing with Sodom and Gomorrah, right? There's like this point where he, God, whether by his own legalistic system or whatever, can go in or will go in, whatever it is. And their idea is to create a world where it's just good enough that God won't destroy it. That is practical. That is dangerous. That makes sense. That is what the devil should be doing. But the devil is a prideful little bitch, and he thinks he can win. Now, unlike other Christian sayings, I think an entity that old probably knows more about how things work and probably has more of a chance than we want to believe. However, God's shown to be better at this game than him time and time and time again. So he's definitely going to lose. Who do you want to in control? I guess if you're small-minded and you want and you just want as peaceful a life for you as possible, maybe the Eastern, be in a place with the Eastern. But personally, that's irritating because your children will be weak and slowly drifted into believing into that stuff more and more because they won't see the problem with it. They won't see the problem with it. They'll be enticed by it, right? And they won't be willing to fight back more and more. And that means all the evil is hidden, but still kind of there. And it's obnoxious. I should get back to reading. Just like the Canaanites who were spared during the Holy War became a sinful draw to Joshua and Caleb's sons, so your tolerance of concepts in those foreign religions in your midst will not stumble you, but your children. Moral men of foreign religion are Trojan horses of the enemy. Their children will lead your sons astray, and God will punish your nations accordingly. The Bible shows this theme over and over again, as we've outlined in our lessons. It is undeniable. In fact, we could see God using the devil's tactics against him. What else could we call the rise of Christianity taking over the tolerant Romans and then Europe and spreading throughout the world? Religion is war because the religions are at war with the true God. Never forget that. And always be wary of the sin of Jeroboam. Isn't that interesting that I stopped? I remember when I was writing this, my brain went, whoa, right. The Roman Empire was a very tolerant empire. As long as you paid your taxes and you didn't rebel against Rome, you could do whatever the hell you wanted. Right? You could be weird. You could do weird shit. They didn't care. Pay your taxes. Don't rebel against Rome. And what did the God do? God used that against the devil and his fingers in that empire. And because they were tolerant enough at first, was able to spread Christianity to the point that when the Romans started suppressing Christianity, it was already too late. There were too many Christians and they were too set. And oh my gosh, is that like, bring this into the camera. Look at this cat eating out of the bowl as you hold him. You go feed him. What a retard. Hey, patience is a virtue, Gatti. You're just gonna. This is actually kind of distracting. You can't see it, but the dog is like watching this whole scenario play out. Yes, the dog eats the cat food more than her own dog food. I don't know what it is. It's a strange one. So, that is an example of God adapting his tactics and surprising the devil. Devil didn't see that one coming. Right? He was building up an empire again that he could control from the inside, right? And then God's like, yeah, you keep building that empire. You keep doing it. I'm going to push some traditional values in amongst them. And then boom, click. Oh, shit. Now Christianity is spread through the entire Roman Empire. Dang it, says the devil. And then when they start feeding the Christians to lions, because the Romans are who they are, they become impressed by the Christian resilience. Remember, right? Romans were tough sons of bitches, and they did it for generations and generations of warfare. The reasons why they became a powerful empire and weren't destroyed time and time again became because they were just willing to do what the other guy wouldn't. Come at him again. Like, It's funny how people bring up Rome's greatest defeat to Hannibal, Cannae, which ironically shows their greatest strength. This was like the second or third massive
Go eat
army
your food.
that Hannibal had destroyed.
I'm not giving you a cat.
And what was the Romans' response? Cat is fat.
It's not that.
Fat cat is fat. He's actually kind of thin, hilarious. And oh,
Go
yes,
eat your food.
say hi.
You're not gonna get
Say
cat
hi.
food from him.
Say hi. Say hi, dude. Skydog needs to see you.
Camera whore.
Ah. Yes.
Rosie,
Okay. Okay. I need to
Rosie,
keep talking.
you're a
Yes.
little bitch.
Yeah.
Go eat your food.
Go eat your
Go.
food. She's not going to eat her food. She's going to wait for the cat food. Cat always leaves some food behind and she always eats it. And then she'll eat her food later
Is
in
it
the night.
nice of him? How are you gaining weight and I'm still skinny?
Probably because you need to eat more food. I mean, she's...
Stole
You're
my
back.
Breakfast early.
Oh no, you're a little brat. You also gave up and probably should have made yourself more food. Tell her to eat more. Anyway, I need to eat less. She needs to eat more. This house is full of opposites. Excuse me. But right. And what was the Roman response to Cannae that most people don't know about? Oh, that's right. They made another army even bigger than the last. After losing like tens of thousands of Romans in one day. Like that's crazy. That's why the Carthage lost and Rome won. Rome was willing to constantly go at it. Like in their heyday, to defeat Rome, you'd have to kill all of them. Like they would never give up. And so that kind of person, that kind of toughness, combined with there's Greek philosophies and whatnot, made them much more predisposed to Christianity when they see people acting like them, like spitting in the face of evil and saying, no, I will stand by my principles no matter what you do, no matter what you throw at me, no matter how you do it. And that eventually turned the Roman Empire around to it. And that is why it worked in the Roman Empire and it didn't work in the Mongol Empire. Or shall we say, some of certain Viking raids. Anyway, we'll keep going. I'm not suggesting we kill every foreign religious partaker in our ranks, but we cannot tolerate their places of worship in God's territory. He won't, so if you do, you make your nation no longer a part of the kingdom of heaven and open up your people to the wrath of God and the desecration of the devil. It's not really hard. Remember how territory is important to this war. So if you allow shrines to other gods in your territory, you're basically allowing your land to become a war, become a front line in the war between good and evil. So don't do that. Don't. What is it? When you read through Kings, you'll find time and time again where the Israelites will come back to God. They'll start doing His commandments, but they won't get rid of the high places to Baal, or the groves of trees to, I forget which entity, or the Asherish poles. They don't get rid of the symbols. They don't get rid of the physical territory of evil in their ranks, and thus they are not fully devoted to God. You've been warned. No one said God's path would be an easy one. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. Matthew 7:13-14. Again, this doesn't mean you have to hate them. We want them to throw off the shackles of their rebellious gods and follow the true God, the Almighty Lord of heaven's armies. However, allowing their children to be stumbling blocks to ours and undermine our nations by provoking God's anger against us by allowing His enemies and their followers in our midst ensures those peoples will not repent as their deities gain in power. That is the war of souls and dirt we fight over, gentlemen, and it exists and rages around you no matter your feelings on the topic. Jesus Christ is very clear that it's evil for a man to favor strangers over his own children, as highlighted by this analogy with dogs. And Jesus went away from there and withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and was crying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely oppressed by a demon." But he did not answer her a word, and his disciples came and begged him, saying, "Send her away, for she is crying out after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." And he answered, "It's not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "O woman, great is your faith. Be it done for you as you desire." And her daughter was healed instantly. Matthew 15:21-28. This is pretty clear. You shouldn't look after your own people. You should look after your own people before caring for other nations and peoples. You shouldn't make your children hungry to feed strangers at the gate or halfway across the world.
Yeah, AG.
That's our parents in a nutshell. So we must, for our descendants'
Grandparents.
sake, remain strong and intolerant. Jesus racist as fuck. Yeah. And in this case particular, it makes sense. What is he? Base. Jesus is based always. Someone made like a Jesus meme, like the Chad face, the Chad model face, but like the Jesus hair and like the cross. Someone needs to do that. Anyway, distracted. Anyway, particularly in this case, what is he saying? He's saying that the Israelites need to be given the salvation first in this case because God chose them, and they're right because of this David and the line and all that stuff of them following him and them spending generations under his being brought up. God's saving them first, as is right. And then once that was done, he moved on to save the Canaanites and bring them all to get the Canaanites, all the people who weren't Israelites. The word is leaving.
Gentile.
That one. All the Gentiles into the family of God again. Grafting them back in was the analogy, is grafting them back into the tree. If that makes sense. So that was an interesting statement in itself, that he was saying not yet, right? If there's some left over. And then we go to oh gosh, dog is hurting itself.
That's what you
All
get
right.
for eating the cat food.
The farmer can hate the foreign raider all he wants. He could even gather all the other farmers together to declare that raiding is evil and no one should raid, but destroy everything you are in love. Destroy everything you are in love. What? I think I messed up that sentence.
Were you tired?
I was definitely tired. Something got deleted, I think.
Should rape but destroy everything you are in love.
Dang
You
it.
are, and then you should.
He could even gather all the farmers together to declare that raiding is evil and no one should
Gross.
raid. But that wouldn't stop the raider. That's the sentence that got erased somehow. Gosh, it's so irritating. But that wouldn't stop the raider from destroying everything they love and are. So be strong and courageous. Face the world for what it is, and fight the intolerant with intolerance. Not wow. I must have been tired when I was writing this and going over it with intolerance, because you being tolerant does not mean they will be tolerant of you. It's a lot of tolerant. Anyway, the point of that analogy I need to go back and fix is, right, all the farmers can get together and say, it's illegal to steal our food and rape our wives, right? But if they don't band together and force their point, the raiders are going to laugh at their law and keep raiding, aren't they? Yeah. A law is just words without the backing behind it. And that's just reality. And thus also, reality is the way it is. Without intolerance, you will if you're not intolerant, You will eventually be overwhelmed, and those willing to be intolerant will beat you down. The choice will be ours to make, so make it well, men of God. Let's see if I missed any comments. Nope. Base Jesus is based. Always nice.
Cat.
You are harassing the animals with a whistle?
It's dog whistle.
Racist.
Look at the cat. The cat can accept it.
He's very confused by it, yes. He's coming over. He's like, what is your problem? Let's check it. All right. Question 1. Have you seen Western boomers putting other nations and people over their own family and flesh and blood? Where do you draw the line between charity and sacrificing family? Now, I don't know if I worded that right, but what I mean is, where do you draw the line? Where are you going too far? When are you putting charity above your own family? Like in my case, for example, I respect the work that my dad did in my youth. God was definitely in that. I brought up the story where he drove out the demon right in front of me, and I was very impressed. But in his later years, God isn't. I will say God is not in his mission anymore. He's just having a fancy retirement, whether he realizes it or not. And it's much the same in my father-in-law's situation. I have a very similar feeling. I had much more respect for him in his youth. But now that he's having basically like a working retirement, which is where you pretend to work, but you're just traveling and going to meetings and basically.
Honestly, it's like he's on vacation. He's going to places where growing up it would be like, whoa, you actually went? That's a nice place.
Yeah, like you can explain to me why you have to go to New Zealand to have special, religious meetings. Expensive place to go, if you know what I mean.
You post pictures of seeing the Hobbit place, something that you're not even.
Man has not read Lord of the Rings his whole life. Anyway,
sends you a postcard. This is where we stay.
Ooh, I stepped on something that triggered a Mama Grizzly. Look out. But I do recognize that God did call them to the mission field back in the day. But there was this point where my sisters were starting to leave the house and they were having a really hard time. It was bad, like really bad. This is where their lives went completely tanked, and they remain rebellious against God to this day because of this time period.
And they really needed your parents.
And my parents stayed on the mission field, and they shouldn't have. That's where it was drawing the line. That's where they chose complete strangers halfway across the world over their own daughters. I
remember our parents would talk about that.
Yeah. And it's just unacceptable. And in retrospect, too, I feel like my dad had already worked himself out of a job. Like he'd done so well. Like his whole thing was training locals to become their own pastors.
No, that's the point where they didn't need him.
They really didn't need him anymore. And they liked him enough that they wanted him around. Don't get me wrong.
Not to hurt his feelings.
And, he did a good sermon and he did a lot of, he did good work still, but he needed to take care of his own family at that point. And, it's always easy to look at things in retrospect, but in this case, it very much bothers me that he didn't try to create a U.S. mission so he could be closer to my sisters. And there was the argument that he was waiting for me to graduate, maybe. But when my sister was really getting messed up, it was 8th grade. He could have made that move. He should have made that move. And yeah, it's bothersome. In the end, it might have been better for me in Nicaragua, but it would have been better for me in the long run if the family hadn't been ripped apart. I didn't have 2 rebellious sisters, one who is literally a witch now, and one who might as well be a witch. And that's bothersome. Of course, I have that in my family now, and especially with the witchcraft stuff, that can taint bloodlines. Obviously not mine because, well, she's not my ancestor, or, it's shameful to my family, but it's not in my genetic line, thank God. But that's really bothersome. And yes, I blame my dad for that because he should have come back when she was getting messed up. Now, maybe she would have continued down that route even with him supporting her, but without the patriarch there to hold the family together,
I mean, the fact
it's
that
on him, right? If they continued on their own way, even after he'd done everything and he'd come back and he made a solid place for my sisters to go back to and have a nice, safe man to be with and encourage them to go down proper relationships and maybe not concentrate on careers, which really didn't do anything for them anyway. Dumbest things in the world.
And also make it so that your mom didn't feel like she could go to your dad and tell her some things, and he finds out the hard way.
Mm.
And your mom had to back you up.
That one we're not going to be able to describe.
No, we're not going to describe it, but that's a failure on his part.
It's big stuff. Anyway, so the line that's the question I think everyone needs to ask was, at what point do you need, because God also makes it very clear we do need to do charity, we do need to help people. Like there's that whole thing in Revelations, like I was hungry and you didn't give me food, or all that other stuff, right? And when you helped them, you were helping me, right? That line used to haunt me at night, especially when you lived in a country where everyone's begging for food and you don't know how to handle it.
Churchians love that one.
Yeah, but let's take it into context. A lot of people take advantage of you on that front too. So at what point are you giving too many resources away and not keeping enough for yourself?
Remember the tsunami?
Yep. Don't get me started on that. Yeah. But then on the other side, I didn't know there's national versions of this as well, like the United States giving out all that foreign aid, which is just bribe money at this point for various world leaders.
They don't even have American workers there that people.
Yeah. But yeah, it's something that I think everyone needs to ask themselves, especially men. You're going to be patriarchs of your house. You need to understand, you need to find that balance. And God is my best advice, and something I'm learning is God is your light. He will guide you on that one. Learn to concentrate on the kingdom of heaven, and he'll show you how much charity he expects from you. That's the best way to put it. Like in my stage of life right now, he's made it clear that he doesn't expect much charity from me because I don't have much to give. Every cent goes to food, gas, and survival. And so there was a brief time, like every time we get a tax return, we always take a portion of it and give it to someone in need. And it's amazing. We love doing that. Honestly, we wish we could do it more. It is a nice feeling when you do it. But it's true.
There will be a time we'll be able to do it again.
I guess it's one of those things of I'm tired of always being the one in need, needing people to help me. I want to be the one helping, damn it. God. Anyway, we're going to move on to question 2. Like the Israelites, all men are prone to the same sins and mistakes. What the heck was I? I must have been really tired.
Humans.
all humankind's mistakes. How can you deal with your own personal recurring sins better? This is a good one. For me, God brought a sin to my attention that I didn't realize I had, yes, gluttony was there, but no, I was referring to, I had a bad habit of trying to do the Abraham thing and making God's will happen in my life. God would bring up something, tell me something he wanted me to do, and I'd be very enthused and faithful and waiting on God, and then my parents would start freaking me out about things, about life, about finances, about stuff, and I would start freaking out more, and I'd try to rush God's plans because I felt like I needed to calm myself and my parents down. And God had to lead me to a point where I cut my parents off for a while so I could see what was happening. And it kept getting in the way of God's plans in my life because I keep trying to do it myself. And God couldn't bless that because then I would, then not only would my parents claim it as like they pushed it, they're the reason why I made it, or I would say I was the reason I made it.
Glory from God.
Yeah, and then me taking the glory from myself without realizing it, right? he wouldn't bless it because it would be coming from that, and me not acting from a place of faith, but from a place of fear, driven up from my parents. And don't get me wrong, I understand the parental need to want to make sure that your son is doing okay and all the rest, but there's a difference between that and getting in the way of God's plans in your son's life, even if he's not making the money you think he needs to be making.
Well, even if like I was thinking at the time when we went to go visit our relatives in Arizona, or not Arizona, Vegas, that whole thing. We prayed and God said this when He did not.
Okay.
There's that other aspect.
Well, now you brought that up, I'm gonna have to explain.
Yeah,
this
I'm
is
sorry,
a great
I'm
example.
sorry.
Okay. Before my grandpa's died, there was a time where I actually had an opportunity to bring my wife and my oldest, who was only a few months old, year old?
No, he was
6 months?
7 months.
7 months
I
old.
was pregnant with the second one.
To see my relatives, all my relatives on my side. Like they're
majority of them.
They're all West Coast except for one who's in Florida, but we haven't seen her. That's funny. My aunt. And we were in Missouri and Florida and all this other stuff. And it was even back then, right? Even back then, it was a job opportunity. There was one of the big gun range places were hiring new gun people. They were letting everyone try out. And I was going to go try out. And I was using it as an excuse to go see family. And I realized it was God more than anything trying to tell me that we needed to get out there. And the way we worded it to my parents and everyone was because my parents were coming back from the mission field to visit everybody. And we wanted to be there, and we wanted to, and this training thing, this tryout training period was happening at the same time. What great timing!
Yeah.
So we told my parents about it all excitedly, and we were praying about it, and we had no money to pull this off at all. And so it was a literal, God, if you can bring us there, get us the resources, we'll go. If not, then that's a no. And my parents had the nerve to call us up one evening and go, we've been praying and we feel like that you shouldn't come visit us in Vegas.
And God told us this.
Right. And I was like kind of taken back and went, Dad, God's answer would have been him not providing the resources, would have been God telling me no. I don't need you to tell me no. God would be telling me no by not providing me with the ability to go. That's the deal that was set up between me and God. Why are you doing this? And he got belligerent with me.
He
and
got really mad.
For the first time in my life, I hung up on my father.
He literally...
I had to hang up on him twice in a row because he called back all angry. And he wouldn't listen to me again. And I hung up again. It's amazing. The boomer's ability to forget that not everybody revolves around them, and you actually have to treat your children like adults at some point. And then they always like do that in a derogatory tone, like, "Oh, you got to work for yourself at some point." But they never stop and go, "Well, that means you also have to treat them like another human being, right? You can't just treat them as your plaything anymore. You can't treat them as something under your authority anymore. They're their own entity." Right. And what happened after that was her uncle out of nowhere.
No, first I got a check from the hospital.
Right.
Because after the car accident.
Right. We got a $900 check.
I got reimbursement from the hospital for the ambulance ride.
$900. It's crazy. Then her uncle, without us asking, on her side, not related to my family, gave us like $3,000. It was crazy. It was $5,000. Oh, it was $5,000. More than enough for a ticket, more than enough to get out there. It was great. And that 100%. Remember, right? I didn't ask her uncle for this at all. He just did it.
We didn't ask anybody for money.
Yeah. We didn't do a Give, Send, Go. I don't think Give, Send, Go was even a thing.
It wasn't a thing back then.
But we hadn't even gotten to that point. We were just praying, and God provided that through it. That should have been such a slap in the face for my dad.
We told your parents that they were hushed for a while.
Yeah, they were just kind of shocked-faced. This should have been a wake-up call for my dad, right? Because I don't deny that they were praying. And I don't deny that something told them that we shouldn't go. But it clearly wasn't God, was it? It wasn't the Almighty. Something else told him I shouldn't have gone. I shouldn't have brought my family. And the crazy thing is, that trip became wonderful because my grandparents on my mom's side found out we were coming, and they brought like the whole family with them. I got to meet my wife, and my oldest got to meet everybody. It was beautiful. And both my grandpas came, and that was the last time I got to see either of my grandpas alive. They were both dead within 2 years. God was getting us out there before they died. My grandpa got to do a blessing over my son.
And then the
Yeah.
Mark,
They got to, yeah. My wife got to meet them before they died. Got to remind myself what the question was. I got a little in the weeds. The point is, the devil was trying to take that from me. And I was able to give my grandpa, because the grandpa on my dad's side.
Your dad's side.
My dad's side's family is just destroyed. It's gone. There's nothing to it anymore. All of them are divorced. None of the kids took their father's names. It's horrible. It is. Like, the only thing that could have made it more destructive would have been if they had been at war, like if they had been killed in war kind of thing, or by disease. It's one of the most horrific things. I don't know any of my cousins' names anymore. They don't know me. I don't know. It's just a couple. Well, at least one of my uncles is dead now, and like not very few of his kids or anything came to his funeral. It was horrible. And
your uncle visited us.
Yeah.
There too. It's like,
and I was able, because my grandpa did kind of the boomer thing, sold the inheritance and everything, but at the end of his life he came around and he started trying to make amends to the family and bring people back. And I really respected him for doing that. And so I was able to put my son in his arms and say, your family name's being passed down. Were you pregnant at the time? I can't remember. You were. I was able to tell him he is going to be a dowry. Or, excuse me, I shouldn't have said that. He is going to have your name. I have another one in the womb it's going to have your name. And
we were able to tell him about our third son before he passed.
That's true. Over the phone that time, obviously.
Yeah.
And that was so big. I remember my dad was in the room when I did that. And I made my grandpa cry with that. And he needed to hear it so bad. My dad, I could see it in my dad's eyes. He knew something amazing that was happening, but he just didn't get it. He didn't see why it was so important that the name got passed down. I guess that's what happens when you give up too much of your family for everything else. You can't physically see why it's important anymore. Anyway, sorry for getting all emotional on you guys. But going back to my sin, what it was attached to caring too much about what my father thought about things. Very much the not so much senpai noticed me as much as, look, Dad, I'm not actually a mess up. I'm not actually a screw up. Look.
Not
like, look, Dad, I can write novels and they're great. It's stupid boyhood stuff. It took me way too long to get out of it. It just took me way too long to get out of it, and I'm embarrassed. But yeah, that's what I had to learn because the pattern was God would want me to do something. I'd get excited to do it, and I'd do it, and it would be a very scary thing. Like the last one was quit my job and then wait on him. But that one was really scary because he told me to quit my job. And then he told me not to really look for other work. That was terrifying for me. And to concentrate on
You're off
writing
work for a year.
and working on these lessons, right? I realize now what God wanted, was wanted me to get these lessons out like last year. God, it was only a year ago. Way earlier, he wanted these lessons out. Rosie, thank you. And the devil did not want that to happen.
That's when we had to cut my dad off.
Yeah. And the devil would use.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
What did you do to the dog?
I tried picking her up underneath her armpit and I got her off.
Oh gosh. Way to hurt a dog on screen. Everyone's gonna think we're horrible people. Anyway. Rosie, you don't need it's okay. It's okay. She's crazy, but she's not that. Oh my god. I'm having an emotional moment. And then my parents or my in-laws would freak out about the situation. Oh, hey, Gato. And I would start looking for jobs and freaking out and not trusting God and not doing the work that he put on my heart to do. And then inevitably, God would frustrate my job search because he made it clear he did not want that happening right then. I mean, that's so nerve-wracking with 4 kids.
And you were out of a job when we had our 4th.
Now you see the money are dwindling down more and more, and your parents are freaking out because they don't want to. As I realize now more, it's hard to talk about because it's so recent too. I realize more and more they just didn't. They didn't want to have to spend the money that would have gone to their next cruise, right? They didn't want to have to spend it on us. So that's why they were panicking me so much on it.
I remember.
And and because I am who I am, I really cared about that. I didn't want to spend my parents' money. I didn't want to do that. And that's why it would work so well on me. And then I wouldn't do any of the work that God wanted me to do. I'd be too stressed out, too freaked out. And God ended up, I realized, though I did pass a lot of those tests in that time period, and I did quit the job like he told me to do, he had to extend his plans. And that's why we ended up out here with a different job for a while. And I finally, through a lot of pigheadedness, who my wife can attest to, have gotten at least to the point where I can slap this pattern in the face. I had to cut off my parents for a while.
We had to.
And then be able to look at it from like up in, the high point, looking down from 10,000 feet and go, oh, crap. And, it's still very much in the works right now, but there's some big things happening in our life that is just...
It's still happening.
It's crazy. It's very much in the beginning. I'm going to be excited to share it with you guys.
But when it happens, oh my gosh.
And he has been providing for us the whole time without my parents' money, right? And again, right, I was so obsessed with not spending my parents' resources that God literally had to put me in a situation where I was spending those resources to basically make sure I was geared towards him. I was putting my dad's wealth over my relationship with Christ, over God, over my family. Now I realize. How dumb is that? How stupid is that? That's how in my head I was. That's how desperate I was to be a man who provided for himself. I just didn't want to spend my parents' money.
What's crazy too is how my dad sent me that long, lengthy message.
Oh yeah, and through that, basically, all the problems in our families have been highlighted to us. Who the troublemakers are, who the people we can't trust are, and who. The best way to put it is, God put us in a position to see a war over our family's souls. It started with my wife's family. It really did. And I'm sad to say most of them failed. Most of that war, they're so destroyed now. It's horrible.
There's only one person I talk to on my side of the family now.
There's the Canadian ones, though. They're doing good.
They are.
They're good because they're separate. They separated themselves from the rest of the family.
Did,
and that's why they're doing good. It's horrible to say. It went from when I first married her. They had this wonderful house church with like all
My
of them
Canadian
together.
cousins came there.
There was like 50 of them. They sang praises. It made me
And then-
really excited to be married to this clan.
And then my grandpa, the one that just recently passed away, actually read from the word.
Yeah,
And it was,
beautiful.
it was beautiful.
It was great. I was really excited to join in. They really liked me, and I talked
still
about
remember
of all
Grandpa
things. Like
Theo.
I got in a conversation with one of your relatives about goat husbandry because they raise
That was
lambs
the
and
one in
goats.
Thailand.
And and I'm really interested in random genetic
That was
stuff
the
when it
Thai-
comes
that
to
was the Thai
animals.
cousins.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
and silly things. And those families are destroyed now. The only ones that are left are the ones in Canada. Everybody else is absolutely batshit and insane. To lesbian stuff, to trannies, to their husbands going back to drugs to escape them, and like being paralyzed, to schizophrenia,
yeah.
to just it's going nuts. It is so bad now.
Like, I literally, the last phone call I had with my dad, I told him, your family line's tainted and I'm not part of it.
She is adopted.
That's true.
And it was horrible to watch. But I'm glad that we were there to be one of the fulcrum points, one of the things where God used us to say, you can follow me or you can continue down your path. And he used our lives as kind of like an example, if you will, like, hey, you could be living this way, but you're not. And they continued not to. And it sucks to watch. And I feel very much now that it's my family's turn to decide if they're going to follow God. Now, luckily, there's a portion of them that are very much going down that path, I think. There's some influences that I'm not happy with. But we'll see what happens. It seems like things might be happening in that direction soon. So be praying for that if you guys wouldn't mind. Because I'd like to see as much of my family saved as possible. I wish I had known what the battle was for my wife's family. If I could have prayed over that more. I have no idea if it would have made a difference. But just the thought angers me and gets me emotional sometimes. But I at least feel remotely ready now. So, sorry for all the tears this time. I really didn't think this would be such an emotional stream for me.
It's literally called the Warrior's Path.
Yeah, you're right. This is
blood, sweat, and tears.
You are on this path with me, and I'm trying to find my way through it with you.
This is how we release stress.
Yeah. All right, next question so I can spend 30 minutes on each one, shall we?
Stress leaves you liquid form.
Yep.
Better
In snot, apparently.
Better than the other side.
Anyway, since the next generations will be leaders and representatives of their people before the kingdom of heaven, their sins will have lasting effects on the next generations after that. How does this knowledge change your attitude and actions towards leadership? And if you are in a leadership position, how? Dang it! Wow, I was really tired when I was writing a lot of this. I think that one works. How does this knowledge change your attitude and actions towards leadership, and if you were in a leadership position? I think, as simply my own family's, my unit's patriarchate, like I just brought up, right? I'm getting ready for a fight for my own family to keep them down the path of the straight and narrow. And it's part of the reason why I get on this tolerance stuff so hard. It's part of the reason why I rail against it so much. Is because a lot of the people who I see going down this path are people I like and I know don't know what they're getting into or don't realize it or don't want to see it. And it saddens me. And I also know that if I even give an inch, the devil will make that inch into thousands of miles. And he'll do it over generations, and my kids will be the ones who suffer for it, not me. And I'll even say it, the Bears right now, and even Owen Benjamin, right, they're not going to be the ones that see the results of allowing all this stuff into their community, all the really weird cultic type stuff they've been allowing, all the Buddhist stuff and all that stuff, the over positivity towards Islam and all that. They're not the ones that are going to pay for that. It's going to be their kids and their kids' kids, probably 2 or 3 generations down, is my guess, that are going to be overly tolerant towards these things, and they're going to let witchcraft in. I already see it. And it sucks because I really, really like those guys. I really like the Big Bear. I really like that community. And it's sad to see all the stuff they're letting in, and the fact that they're so nearsighted not to see how it's going to be a problem for their kids and their kids' kids. There's really frustrating in groups that are even like more like, they see the conspiracies and all. Thanks, Ann. Skydog. It's even harder, like, being a conspiracy guy that I've been, right? You've probably seen some of the Skydog, like the conspiracy communities or whatnot are really like even way worse than the Bears, any of the on that front. Even when they're starting to get kind of connected and adding some God talk into it, they have so much crap mixed in. It's shocking. And it stops them from being able to see the truth. And they'll meditate the things they don't understand. They'll let things in. And again, that's why we're going to start. I don't know when. Maybe a Wednesday night stream or something. Because the propaganda for all of this setting up for the next layer of Matrix, we might even start with the Matrix wife. That might be kind of fun. Started in our sci-fi movies. That pushing for Buddhism and Eastern religion mixed being into that quasi-scientific realm, that weird sciencey Buddhist cult, if you will. This is the Eastern religion sciencey cult is the best way to put it. Star Wars had a lot of this as well, right? There's a reason why Jesus Christ is a Sith. I need to make that. Man, if we ever make shirts, can we make like Jesus Christ is a Sith and he's my homeboy? Like I follow my master Jesus Christ and like give me red eyes.
Oh, my master.
If you, like on the back it says if you're not with him, you're against him. Like lava all around and then a cross. Dark lording it up, baby. You know where you're going, bitches. And he will send you there if you don't follow him. But yeah, they did that because they knew they would catch all the people who would start seeing the evil and start looking for something to fight it with. They created that thing that would make them feel spiritual while keeping them from God. It was really brilliant. I have to give the enemy credit where the enemy's due. That was a couple generations in the making propaganda that is so thorough and so strong. It's so hard to break people out of it.
Yeah, movies are still crappy.
Yeah,
everything. It is the time to
point it out.
Point it out all.
Like the really hard part is getting people to understand that our current propaganda that everyone can see and it's obviously bad isn't the propaganda you got to worry about. Because everyone can see it. It's the propaganda like that was made in the 80s and the 90s that nobody saw. That's the propaganda that's the problem. That's the propaganda that's tricky. It's in there. That's a worm in your child's brain that will come out and be rebellious against you when they're teenagers. Right? That tells them, ooh, you're so smart. You're smarter than your Christian dad. Right, your basic spiritualness is better than his spiritualness. You're smarter, right? His stuff is stupid. Come over here. Come to the science. Come to where it's smart. Come to reality. Wow, 2-hour stream. Hot diggity dog.
But in my reality, there's fire and brimstone, baby.
Witch burner. I think you mean in reality.
In reality.
And yeah, woo. That's exciting. I kind of want to keep going, kind of down. I also want to play some Foxhole. It's already 12:30. That's sad. That facility needs to get built. No one will kill those furries. Like, the furries won't shoot themselves most of the time. We gotta go shoot them for them.
Well, yesterday I played the entire time when you were at work.
I know. I got her hooked, man. We gotta be careful.
The time you left home till the time you came back, I was still on.
Yeah, man, when they start implementing crafting, I gotta watch this woman. Like in Star Citizen, she might lose herself to space crafting, man. Whew. It's gonna be scary. On the flip side, we could probably
Give me a to-do list, baby.
while we're at work and stuff, we could give her slave labor and we could just like use everything like that she builds.
My 8 hours days.
Yeah. As long as she cooks every now and then and maybe cleans some stuff, I'm okay.
That's what baking bread is. You let it sit for an hour, you play an hour.
You know,
Then you put it in the oven for an hour and a half, you could play an hour and a half.
If only more women weren't the Candy Crush types, if we could get them situated into this, they might do less, like, they might be less inclined to all of their obnoxious behaviors, like
solipsism.
That, a little bit of that. I was going with
gossip.
That one, like gossiping and constantly cutting, because they're too busy, in the game.
There's no time for gossip. I know.
And they're in their game. If it's not Candy Crush, they're not spending money, right? Candy Crush, they might be spending money, but the game where you buy it once, but you don't have more things to buy, they're not spending money.
That's amazing,
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's funny is like when I was making biscuits today, I was thinking, okay, kind of like how I make bee mats. It's
biscuit mats.
No. I need the flour.
Yeah.
Okay, but what else do I need? I need the sugar. Okay, what else do I? Like I'm in my mind, it comes out like what it shows on the computer screen now.
Oh God.
And then the download thing.
Babe.
It's horrible.
You realize that the guys making Foxhole, right? Camp, they're making Anvil Empires, which is like a medieval Foxhole, and there's a whole aspect of it.
They have a baking thing that's like that same.
Wife can bake bread in real life and in the video game at the same time. She's more excited than I thought she would be. It's a ways out. They've been making it a lot. You're too excited. Stop. You're creeping me out a little bit. I mean, we could probably do Valheim.
I rarely do this motion with my hands in my face, okay? I'm actually blushing because I realize what I'm doing and I really don't act like this.
I'm hoping that in Star Citizen they add cooking and stuff and make it. I think they will go that, like, make it a form of crafting.
They have. Oh gosh, I'm blushing.
And there's actually, like Valheim and the Legend of Zelda do this, where you get buffs for the right type of food. It gives you special buffs, and the more high quality, the better buffs you get. I want Star Citizen to implement that. And then I could put my wife to work in the kitchen in real life and in digital life, and it'll be great. Yes.
There's already furniture.
It's true. It's true. But there's a full wipe coming in 4.0. Would you hear about that, Stardog?
Oh, he knows. He posted on the group thingy.
Yep. Sad day. But it gives me time to maybe clean up my computer's drive so it goes a little faster for it.
I think my mind broken.
You're so cute right now. We should probably get on.
I never do.
Bring on the wipe. It is actually kind of a fun time. I'm not going to lie. I kind of like wipes. Not entirely. Since I have
You don't like baby wipes?
Since I have to build up from a starter ship because I'm a poor boy, right?
Oh boy. Do you got water left over, or you drink it all? Because I need water after all.
I accidentally spent on boxes. It's a good time for a wipe. Like the storage boxes. It's hilarious. Well, fill all those storage boxes. Oh, wow, she did it.
I had to cool down.
Yeah. You're cute. Okay. This is, Friday night will be our video game stream. Like $20. Well, I want to do some more video game content. I actually have a video that I just need to put in the video editor
Don't make it like
where
that.
I'm LARPing hard, like planning out what. Basically, the idea is how, as a smaller group, can you take out a Polaris that's been harassing you? And I use Perseus. It's quite fun. I think I might do more of it because it's a good time. And actually, if you watch the latest video from IEE, the one talking about how their vision of what combat with big ships should look like, it's actually pretty relevant. I think on our Friday stream, I actually have a video from one guy where they're experimenting with small fighters trying to concentrate on destroying the turrets and stuff of the Polaris, and it's really interesting to
It's
watch.
gonna be interesting compared to the last.
I want to experiment. I want to apologize for the last stream. I don't think that one was as good as what I usually do. So we'll make this other one more exciting. I don't know why. Also, like, I know why CIG feels like they have to repeat their information, right? It's because a lot of people are
make a
freaking
crappy
out.
video.
Because a lot of them are freaking. A lot of the backers are freaking out because they haven't been paying attention, or they're new and they haven't watched the old stuff. Like, I feel like the first video that they made, right, that I showed on this last Friday stream, was sharing nothing new and doing a very bad job of trying to sell the Intrepid. And I wanted to like the Intrepid. I want it. I want to like it.
And then their office video.
Wife didn't like it because it reminded her too much of her Gamma brothers. She couldn't handle it. And unfortunately, I'm sure there's a number of those fellows in CIG just because you have a tech firm. And you got to deal with that.
Why do some tech people have to be like that? I know not all tech people are like that, but you know what I mean?
Hashtag not all tech people.
You know what I mean?
It's because they obsess over things like being subject matter expert. You need a lot of those. When you're making a game, you do anyway. Don't worry. When life goes down a little bit, I'll get back into making video games again, and I'll make a video game space without them. Does that make you feel better?
People doing that stuff.
Some people just don't like the penguin, so it's not a bad start. No, I hate the penguin. I hate the Avenger Titan. That's why I was mad about the Intrepid, is because the Intrepid wasn't enough to compete with the Titan. Like, they still made the Titan overpowered, and that annoys me. There is that's what's annoying, is even with the 8 SCU, the Intrepid splitting it up makes it so you can't have 4 SCU boxes. You run into, say, you get really lucky, the Titan is the GOAT. I hate that Titan penguin. Well, the annoying thing is it doesn't have to be overpowered. They could have just given the other starter ships similar power levels. Like, what? They're literally made the Intrepid to compete with the Titan, and then they nerfed it into oblivion so it can't compete with the Titan. What? What B team came up with that idea? Like, in every way, the Titan is better, except for some nebulous thing, like they gave it excessively long range. Like, it has more range than a Cutlass. I forget exactly how much the Cutlass. Like, the standard range for a ship that size is 0.5 SCU of quantum fuel. They gave the Intrepid 1.2 SCU of quantum fuel. I actually have a Mustang Beta in my hangar. Talk about a turkey. Well, they should I like the idea of the I like the Mustang. I learned how to dogfight in the Mustang Alpha band, and I do pretty good in that thing. Though they kind of nerfed it now. Like, the big thing about the Titan, right? Yeah, it blows up. The big thing that bothers me about the Titan, right, is it's a courier ship. One of the fastest ships in the game. Okay, so the ship that I like, that I have in my hangar, is the 340, the military variant of the 300 series, right? And it's an interceptor. And right now, I really like where it's sitting. It's faster than everything in a straight line. It's not as maneuverable. It has a nice amount of firepower. It has a nice amount of missiles. It's really fast both in standard EM and quantum and all that. It's great. And I was really excited till I looked at the Titan, like because it was faster than all the other ships, including things like the other light fighters, like the one that was the GOAT for so long. The one that's the Gladius, right? The super ship, the hero ship, right? Right. Finally, it was faster than it, and it had all this. And then I looked at the Avenger Titan, and even though the Avenger Titan is not a military ship, it matches every single stat of an interceptor, and it's not an interceptor. Somebody please explain this to me: why it should be as fast as an interceptor. Like, to give you some understanding here, I don't know. I don't think they were looking at this because all of the 300 variants all have the same stats for speed and everything and maneuverability, including the racing variant, which is now as slow as a standard cargo courier ship, the Titan. Like literally at this point, the 300i, the 325A that I have can outrun any ship in the verse except for the Titan. And the Titan has the same amount of firepower, less missiles, but 4 more SCU. I don't like it. I'm a little frustrated. This is my problem with the Titan, is it breaks the whole, like, what was the thing that they were saying? They wanted to make a ship for everything, right? Ships that have different roles. The Titan breaks that because it's too good at everything. Why would you use anything else when you can just use the Titan in that whole situation? It needs to be slower, or they need to speed up the interceptors. Personally, speed up the interceptors. All right. Though personally, it should be slower because it has 4 SCU. It's faster than the Intrepid, even though the Intrepid has that whole like speedy Crusader boy vibe about it. It's faster. For some reason, it has smaller engines. It has a fatter ass. It's not as dynamic, and yet it's faster. What? Anyway, that stuff confuses me. Like CIG, if you want to sell the Intrepid, sell the Intrepid. What are you doing? If you don't want to sell the Intrepid, why are you making it? Anyway, I was just excited for a Crusader starter ship because I like the Crusader vibe. And I actually kind of dug its visuals for a little while, but then they shot it in the foot because the price point means you have to compete with the Avenger Titan. Even with what it is right now, if they had put it down to like $50, $45, and it was competing with the Mustang Alpha, the Cutter, and all that, my buyback, when they figure out their shit about the 325A and all that, then it'll make a lot of sense. But right now, it's just an Avenger Titan with more missiles and less SCU, which, I mean, missiles are really useful. I like those size 3s, but you're going to get a lot more out of that little cargo space, if you know what I mean. Oh, all right. I need to get off. I started talking about things. Whenever Skydog's on, I want to talk. But my baby woke up, and it's really late, so I got to get off. It's been great talking to you. Be looking for those other videos and things and more streams. We're going to have a lot of fun on the Friday stream, so try to show up if you can, Skydog, because it's going to be a Star Citizen heavy episode. I might find some Foxhole stuff into. Maybe I'll find a third game to mix in. So you guys, I want that to be a general gaming feel, not just those games. Of course, she has a diaper. So it's going to be a good time. We're going to analyze how they went about destroying the Polaris and how much. And they didn't actually beat the Polaris, by the way, though they disarmed it a lot of ways. So be interesting to see. We're already seeing signs of the big ship combat coming into play that was described in the second video of AI. Also, I'm immensely curious about the new ship, the Mirai Guardian, the the Monster Fury. That thing looks cool. I don't know what its interior is or what exactly it's supposed to be. It's obviously combat related. I am very curious. Does it have a big enough? Like, can I put a Fury inside the ass of the Monster Fury and it can have like babies? Like it's a
Monster Fury.
the ship basically look. You know what the Fury looks like? I think I've showed you.
Is that the new one?
It's like a little TIE fighter.
Yeah.
They've made a ship that's like
bigger.
just like it, but
But
huge.
bigger.
At least it's like a medium size, which I'm very fascinated by. Anyway, I need to let this child sleep.
Her eyes
So-
are closed.
I'll see you guys later. Later, Skydog. Later, all you people who stayed silent.
What are you doing?
Like, subscribe, share.
Her
Come
eyes
back.
Are closed and she's touching me.
I'll use that as an excuse.
Now I know how the elephant felt like.
By the way, Skydog, I understand your problem about every time going for your wife's butt and the dog attacking you. Every time I try to flirt with my wife, the dog jumps on me. It's very frustrating. Good thing I like that dog so much. Anyway, see you guys later. We're ending the stream now. It's only
Way
been
to
2
end it.
hours.
Way to end the stream.
Ah.
Like